Here we go. Season 1, episode 1 of the Salespeople podcast. How's it going, Ben?
All good, mate. Excited. Yeah? Really excited.
Good. Feels like it's taken us a while to get here. We're talking about it for a while, thinking about all the other podcasts in the world, but we're doing one about salespeople in the Middle East. How do you feel about that?
It's one that I want to listen to, mate. Whether anyone else does, we don't know.
Yeah.
But it's something I want to listen to. I'm excited to speak to people, learn from people, mate.
Yeah, good. I think we've been searching for doing something, isn't it? And I think we really want to get to a place where the sales world is being celebrated, not just in the Middle East, but overall. And I think this podcast, the Salespeople, we want to be the Middle East first podcast dedicated to celebrating salespeople. So every week, what we're going to do, we're going to have a superstar salesperson on the pod, talking about their journey, talking about a topic close to their heart, and just really get into the depths of great salespeople and why they do what they do. Did you think 13 years ago that you'd be here in the Middle East, in a podcast, doing a podcast with me?
No, definitely not. I guess I'm a little bit different to almost every other salesperson in the sense that I always wanted to be in sales.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't think I'd be sitting in the Middle East talking about sales, mate.
Yeah.
For sure not, but I'm excited.
It's crazy to think that we're doing this. And just to kind of introduce why we think it's crazy. So Ben and I, we've known each other 13 years. We did our first interview in London together back in the day, which was like a crazy group interview with 15 kids. I didn't have a clue what was going on. And we managed to escape out of it.
Fresh graduates in oversized suits walking into Covent Garden, right?
Just some weird characters going on. People didn't know what to do, what the etiquette was, shaking everyone's hands and sitting down, standing up. It was a random one, but we made it out alive. And big thanks to everyone at read.co.uk. Gave us a great sales upbringing. And
can you still remember where you sat in that room?
Oh, nah. Big boardroom setting, wasn't it? Massive table, 15 people around.
He was over there to my left near the window, and I was to the right.
So you trying to stare me out?
Yeah.
While I was trying to pitch?
Yeah.
It was, great times. And I think from that, we had a little bit of time apart, didn't we? A few years where you were still in London, I was here in Dubai, and then we managed to reconnect and have an incredible journey in the startup space out here. And then decided to set up our own business, and here we are now talking about amazing salespeople and their journeys.
Yeah, excited. And for me, the opportunity to promote sales, I think, is really important, because if you ask people about salespeople that don't work in sales, like, their typical view is negative.
Yeah.
Which hurts me, which kills me, because it isn't what salespeople is all about. Yeah, like, yes, there's bad salespeople, but that isn't the majority.
Yeah.
And actually, those bad salespeople are the people that never got trained, coached, or brought up in the right way that we did when we was at Reed, right? So this is an opportunity to promote the good side of sales, which I don't think there's really a platform for people. So excited, mate.
And if you're listening, first of all, thank you. Thanks, Mum. Thanks, Dad. But if you know great salespeople in the Middle East that want to come in, we can understand their journey, get to know them, get to know why they're great, please feel free. There'll be some kind of comments below on some kind of platform that we'll figure out in a few months. But get onto that. And we love, sales is the name of the game. If you think there's a great salesperson, or you think you're a great salesperson, we'd love to speak to you. I guess maybe what I love from you, your background in coaching and your kind of emphasis of understanding people in a much deeper level. If someone's listening for the first time, or someone wants to understand kind of what we're trying to achieve, what do you think is the purpose of this podcast, and what could someone get out of this if listening for the first time?
So sales in its nature is competitive. Sales in its nature is quite lonely, because you're always working usually to an individual goal. Whether that's internally or against other businesses. So very rarely would you get a salesperson from one business sitting down with a competitor, or a salesperson from another business, even if it's not in the same space, and share stories and ideas. The lonely side of sales, when you're struggling and it's tough, that everyone goes through a lot of the time, is hard. So hopefully this podcast breaks through the ice a little bit and gives salespeople the opportunity to understand that like everyone goes through challenges, and like actually we'd all be in a better place if we shared stories and how to help and as such. So like for me, salespeople could do a much better job at helping each other versus knocking each other down.
I think we're in an age now where like the impact of social media, everyone wants to see the great in you, the great stories, the targets being hit, the commissions, the yacht parties, and all of this. But the reality is, to get to all of that, there's a ridiculous amount of hard work, rejection, and learning that you've got to do to get there. And hopefully this podcast can obviously be a bit of fun. We want to uncover great stories, but just really understand the depths of how do you get there. Like it's not just a 0 to 100. There's a lot of journey in between. So hopefully we can uncover a bit of that, and just again, like, celebrate great salespeople. That's what we're here. Like, get great salespeople around us, get to understand them, hopefully learn a bit of them, and hopefully the audience will listen to and learn. So the theme of the first one is resilience. So we've got Katrina coming in. I spoke to Katrina 4 or 5 years ago. She was on a journey there, which hopefully we'll get to the depths of. Amazing character, like to even today. So we want to brief everyone before we get in the podcast. And it is our first time as well, so we're a little bit nervous. I was like, Katrina, fancy booking the 15-minute call? She's like, no, I'll put a suit on and it'll be sound. I was like, okay.
Confidence.
Yeah, absolute boss. So to have that and to know what I know she went through, to come out of that with that kind of swag and confidence is amazing.
Yeah.
But in terms of resilience for you, 13 years in sales, I say you've had your fair share of challenges, and resilience has probably been needed more than once. So what is it that resilience does for you in sales?
And it's ongoing as well, right?
day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute.
But resilience is one of those like soft skills that you can't test.
Yeah.
You don't really know when you meet someone for the first time whether they're sort of resilient or not, and it's tough to understand.
Yeah.
For me, only by looking at someone's probably background and what they've done can you start building a story around their resilience. And resilience is a spectrum, I guess. It's not whether you have it or you don't. There's levels of resilience, and there's some of the most resilient people in the world and least, and some people with very, very little resilience. Is it nature or nurture? Is it something you're born with, something you develop, something you learn? And if you can develop, how do you develop it? Is it only through tough, challenging situations do you build resilience, which feels horrible, right? If the only way I can learn is by getting beaten up a few times, but
just getting pummeled.
Maybe I don't want to be resilient. But yeah, I'm excited to dive into her background, because I think out of everyone we've spent time with over the last 4 years, her career journey is a clear one of resilience and then success.
And to slightly plug our business, we run a sales recruitment company, and for me, when working with finding salespeople jobs, the story of Katrina will always be with me. Just the position that she was in, the fact that she knew she wanted to be in the Middle East, she knew she could succeed, and just that drive. Like, she must have got so many knocks day to day, and just nothing fazed her. And that's what's really cool. And I think every salesperson in the world needs resilience. Like, it's a constant. We are experts in rejection. So how you use resilience, how you've learned how to be resilient, or how it's been maybe kind of organic or from birth, we'll see. But having that is so important. And if you don't have it, then probably not in sales. Should we get her on?
Let's do it, man.
Katrina?
Yes.
How's it going?
Fantastic.
Good.
Very good.
Feeling good?
Yeah. First time we've actually met face to face.
I know.
But I feel like...
Which is a little mental, isn't it?
100%. I mean, no fault of my own. Baby, marriage.
True.
businesses being built. So
we've also been 15 minutes away from each other, so it's been pretty poor from everyone's end. But
yeah.
we're here now.
I'll take a third of the blame.
We'll do the natural first date of the podcast, so
Yes,
that's good.
Yes.
And we've all got something in common. It is our first podcast,
Yes.
so let's help each other out.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's
We're
good.
all caffeine
That's it.
ready, yeah?
Happy days.
Exactly.
But it's great to have you on, and
Appreciate
I think good to finally meet. But I think there's so much to hopefully uncover today, and I think like the theme of resilience, there was only one person that we could get in.
Thank you.
So before we kind of dive into kind of why I've seen a lot of resilience in you, just take us back, tell us the journey. How the hell did you make it into the desert on a podcast with us?
How far back would you like me to start? Because it's
Let's go sales career. Let's go sales.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I during my university days, I was working in hospitality. At the same time, I was doing some, part-time sales gigs at large gyms, and then I shifted into a small, very small startup that was focused on dental design, so digital smile design. I really liked working for a startup because there's that flexibility and that openness to take in new ideas. And I thought that, moving to a customs broker would have been the right decision. Unfortunately, early on, I realized it wasn't a good fit for me. And, the stars really aligned because custom brokers are usually by the airport. So I saw an Emirates flight coming in and thought, okay, that's a good enough excuse to get out of here. Again, being a cabin crew is not something for me. I realized that, I think, on day one. And so the silver lining for me during COVID was a lot of people ended up losing their jobs. I was in a really fortunate position because my family really supported me. They said, Canada's not really doing so well right now, and we don't see the end of this. So, take the summer, try to find anything, because we know that UAE, Dubai in particular, is going to recover much faster because they have to. 80% of the population being expats, you have to open, you have to accommodate, whereas that wasn't happening in Canada, I think up until even last year. So I found a couple odd jobs, and what I learned very early on here is nothing is what it seems until you're actually in the thick of it. So, to put it in a bit of a pun, you have to kiss a few frogs to find your prince. So, and you guys introduced me to my prince, where I'm currently employed, and it's been a really, really interesting journey growing. The office when I joined was 4 people. We're now at about 20. Even the number of our clients has exponentially grown. So it's something I'm really, really proud of, and I owe a lot of that to you. You guys saw something in me, and were able to actually properly communicate that to your clientele as well. So I really appreciate where we started and where we're at right now.
It's all you, man, all you. I guess like when we first spoke, there was lots of ups and downs, and that's why we've got resilience is the topic. What is resilience to you, aside of kind of a part of your career in sales? Like, what is resilience overall, and why is it important for you and importantly for salespeople to have that in their toolkit?
I think in general, resilience, you just have to be that way. Otherwise, life just crumbles. I think everyone's been through, personal difficulties or hard times, heartbreaks, issues with your parents or your siblings or your friends. And if you allow that to seep in, it very quickly becomes a snowball effect where everything else around you starts to take in that negativity. So I've been through what some people would call traumatic experiences, but, that's just part of life, right? It's, I always, bring it back to, if you don't have downs, then the ups mean nothing, right? There's no one thing without the opposite. So if that's always how I try to look at things, and it's never going to be forever. You have to grow, and you don't grow when things are easy and good. So that's what it really means to me. I think what helps in sales in terms of resilience, because you get way more no's and hang-ups and ghosting than you get, deals closed and yeses and progression, is what really is important to me. And that's why I've stuck with Doctify for so long, is I truly believed in the product. And it was like, it's not a no, it's I'm not ready yet. So that's really what helped me through the very, very long, drawn-out sales processes, especially for the larger, hospital groups that I'm now working with, thankfully.
Liam said start at sales, but that resilience isn't just given to you. Right? Loads of people have been in challenging situations in sales or outside of sales and not got through it. Where do you think you built your resilience?
Ooh, I'm gonna try not to get emotional, but definitely my parents. They brought me into a beautiful neighborhood. I had an amazing life, and they had their personal issues, and even between each other. I remember a few times my dad had lost his job and very secretively, was working nights, stocking shelves just to make it by, to help us and to make sure that we don't feel any gap in our quality of life. So that, and I don't even know if he knows that I know that, but that's something that has always stuck with me. My dad in particular didn't really care if he got his hands dirty, if it was a job that was maybe looked down upon. He made sure that we were good. And my mom the same way, but obviously more from a emotional side. So it really comes down to my parents. So I'm so blessed to have that as my sort of foundation. And I really have supportive friends. So if I don't feel great about myself, about my situation, I have probably a dozen people back home and here that I feel like they're my biggest fans, and that really helps a lot as well from an emotional perspective.
How often are you talking to those close-knit people about the challenging times or the times where you need that kind of support?
Right. It used to be a lot more frequently than now. Now, I mean, ebbs and flows of life. There were times where it was probably a year straight where it was like every week, twice a week, they would have to remind me of, how lucky I am, how great I am, funny and smart and this and this. Now I have I'm very sure of myself. And I think that comes down to when I moved to Dubai, I feel like if I came here more green and less sure of who I was, I would be in a completely different mental, financial state than I am right now. I came in very sure of myself, confident in my personality, because back home I went through a bunch of stuff. So coming here, you can I feel like I can see through a lot of the smoke and mirrors that's very, very present here as well.
I think you, like working within recruitment now, you can see a lot of people looking inwards towards Dubai as like this amazing opportunity, and like it definitely is, but there is that other side to it. How did you transition over here? How did you find life different to back in Canada?
Ooh, it's much more fast-paced.
Yeah.
It's much more cutthroat as well. And there are a lot of people coming from Canada now over here, and they assume it's going to be smooth sailing, and it's anything but. It's completely different. Even when it comes to our healthcare system, no one knows where to start when they move from Canada because we only have one avenue, and it's kind of a take it or leave it situation. Whereas here, I have all these choices, and I think that's one of the double-edged sword in Dubai. It's you have so many choices, but how do you differentiate yourself, and how do you differentiate between the choices that you want to make or have to make? So I think for a lot of people that can also, give them some negative outlooks on, we were talking about earlier about salespeople. People are just used to cold calling, almost like robots on the phone. So that when someone maybe like myself calls and has, a unique proposition or, something that they truly believe in, they just want you to hear them out and you can make the final decision. I think when they get those calls from those people, the initial reaction is, I don't have time, I'm not interested, I don't even care what you're selling, I'm not interested. Even if 6 months down the line, they're going to be the ones calling you saying, hey, we never heard from you. It's like, well, you did, but that's just the name of the game, I think. But I think the biggest misconception when people move to Dubai is that it's going to be easy, money's just going to roll in. And it's definitely not that. It takes a long time.
Never worked harder since we've been here. And I think what we've seen, especially over the last 12 months, is so many people want to get out here. It's like the golden ticket. And there's great commercial reasons. Obviously, you've got great weather and there's this brilliant infrastructure. But you've got to work fucking hard for it. Yeah. And there's no 9 to 5, especially in sales here, there is a target. You know, if you can set yourself up and you can do it within the remit of 9 to 5, brilliant. But if not, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And people, you know, if you're seriously considering getting out here, it's so much different to you know, the likes of the UK and Canada, where you've really got to put your foot down and get, you know, learning as much as you can, onboarded as best as you can, and then get out there.
Yeah.
And that is tough.
Last night I had a message from hopefully a soon-to-be client, big client, 12:30 a.m.
Jeez.
So you don't shut off.
Yeah.
It's a 24-hour... You're on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, basically.
In Europe, Canada, America, that'd be so unacceptable, right? To receive a message at
well, they
12:30
wouldn't even
in the
have
morning,
my
but it's just
personal
like,
number,
yeah.
right? Here, that's, you know, people want to talk on WhatsApp,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, it's completely different.
And
Completely different.
how do you balance that? So, I mean, me and Liam of an opinion, there isn't this like work life, it's just life, right? And it's all integrated. You can't switch off from one and start the next. You don't go home and then you move to life. Like, life is work inclusive. Right. How do you deal with that? If you got clients message, because you have to have boundaries, but
Yes.
how do you deal with that?
What I've done, I keep only certain work apps on my phone. Otherwise, I'm very tempted to refresh and keep checking. So my work email is not on my phone. I have Slack for important messages and WhatsApp. So besides those two things, I try to not focus on work because you burn out so easily. And then when it comes to clients, most of the time, unless they're very upset about something, they understand 12:30 at night, you're not going to get back to them. I'm probably already asleep.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Until you get a follow-up message at 2 a.m.
Right, like the BBM, like ping, ping, ping.
Important exclamation mark.
Yes, so I think, you know, it also comes down to like crunch time. You want to be available all the time just in case something clicks. But there are times where, like, if I'm on vacation, if I'm visiting home, do not talk to me.
Yeah.
I'll have someone else get in touch, setting myself up that way as well so I can actually disconnect properly. Otherwise, you come back and it's like, that was just a waste of vacation days because I ended up working.
Notifications for me, they're the devil. Get rid of your notifications. Just don't react. Just go into the things when you need to.
Yes, exactly.
Hate it when
Nothing is that important.
No.
I work in healthcare and doctors. It's not a life-saving surgery. It can wait 6 hours, realistically. Unless it's, the 31st at 9 p.m., then we got to get it done ASAP. So, yeah.
If I take us back to when I first connected with you, so like there was various kind of jobs. It was kind of an up and down kind of start for you here before obviously we found your job. Like, how were you at that stage? How were you kind of coping with juggling with certain parts of your working life here and trying to get settled?
Yes.
And what was resilience to you back at that stage?
Ooh, it's difficult to put my brain back in that time because it was such a whirlwind for everyone. No one, from 1 week to the next, you really didn't know what was going to happen. So I think for me, I don't even know if I had resilience at that time or if I was just going with the flow. I knew, certain aspects of the job I had at the time I wasn't happy with, but I was trying to just, get over the hump. If it was a hump, who knows? So I think it's, just kind of waiting things out and understanding the whole landscape of things and not just focusing on one aspect, seeing the potential, seeing, the silver lining in things. So that really helped me out. I also, again, I didn't really have a strong support system here. I somehow met my husband after 4 months of being here. So that was, something that really helped. I don't think if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have stayed. I genuinely was not happy my first 6 months here. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's so funny. It's a lot of chance, a lot of just right place, right time, right people. So I don't even know if I can map out from A to Z how this all happened. It really just is the universe, God, whoever, just putting it all into place.
I think you've got a support network, you've got all these great people around you, but I think for me, what's striking is your self-belief. I'm confident if you didn't have access to all of these people that you would still remain the same in the same character. So, what can you take from self-belief and how do you have that self-belief, or is that something that you feel that you have?
I feel like that is something that was newly discovered relative to my entire life. I grew up extremely shy.
Shaking that off then.
I know, people are shocked. I think naturally I am quite shy in social situations. You know, I was this awkward kid till I was like 14, braces, like awkward. I was, you know, as skinny as this boom. And, you know, once the braces came off, that was sort of phase one. And then it was coming out of this insecure phase and trying to reframe that, I guess. And then maybe it got into a bit of arrogance when you're a teenager, of course. And then, you know, again, ebbs and flows, and just picking out things that remain true the whole time. So I think the self-belief came from how consistent I've been in terms of, I think I'm quite funny. Other people have told me that. I don't know. But, you know, finding things in my personality that I'm actually really proud of. Not to get too, you know, anti-feminist, but there are some people that they think that life is just, I'm going to look good and everything's going to be handed to me. And I think that first half of my life, where I was the opposite of that, really pushed me to improve myself personality-wise, humor-wise, work ethic, things like that. So it really is, it's a process, right? It's not something I was personally born with. Again, even with these support groups around me and all the successes I had, it was still something that I had to figure out, what do I want to be known for, right? You know, I want to be a great salesperson. I want to make a change. I want, you know, people to enjoy themselves around me. I don't want to just be, you know, sitting pretty, you know, on a podcast, right? So I think that's where it really stemmed from. But it's always going to be a learning journey and a progression throughout life.
You had those up and downs, and then you landed this role at Dr. Fire, right? And since then, you've gone and had, I think, 3 promotions?
Something like that, yes.
Since being there. So it wasn't the case you found your home and then you settled. You've obviously pushed on and become incredibly successful. What was that journey like, from finding your home, your happy place, a business that looked after you, to going through sort of a like levels of promotion? And
yes, I think genuinely it had a lot to do with how large the company was at the time. When you join a company with 4 people that have now grown to 20, there's obviously room for growth. So larger corporations, that takes a lot longer, unless by some chance you stand out from day one. So I was really lucky in that circumstance. I was very lucky with the company I was working for, or am working for as well, so Doctify. Amazing leadership in that firm. So I think that's one aspect. For me, I didn't do very well my first 2 months, and I was dead set. I don't want to be known as the person who didn't close anything, right? So it was an adjustment for me. Working in Dubai, I didn't even know the streets at the time when I joined, but I did know that I had an experience that I could talk about when I'm selling, right? So having that story where it's like, you know, there's the status quo, but why don't we go beyond it? And I think Dubai in general there's a juxtaposition in a lot of things. There's tradition, and then there's, forward thinking. There's the status quo and how things want to change. And I think it's going to sound bad, but I like proving people wrong. I think it's a good and bad thing. So I'm always finding ways to get around someone saying no, right? I don't accept, we're fine. This isn't, I don't believe in it. Well, why? I believe in it. I'm a patient. I'm your end user, and I'm telling you these are my issues. So I think, that's definitely been something that has pushed me. I like proving people wrong, and I don't want to be the bottom of the pack at any point. And I think as well, my style of sales is more, I don't do the transactional stuff. It's just not in my blood. So I really want to have a relationship with people. I want them to refer their colleagues, or if they move to, another firm, I want them to call me and, know that I'm going to take care of them. I don't want to just say anything to get the sale. I truly believe in the product that I'm selling right now, and that makes it so much easier to, take the blows, take any criticism, things like that. but yeah, that's I think those three aspects, how it's come to be.
I mean, that's super important for any role, like any sales role. You've got to believe in what you're selling. Otherwise, you go into work almost blind to yourself on a daily basis, trying to convince someone of something you're not even convinced about.
And people can see right through that.
Yeah,
from within 5 seconds. That's why I think again a lot of people revert back to this negative sentiment when it comes to salespeople. They're used to just people reading from a script. Okay, it's working, it's not working. I'll call the next person. Yeah, you have to do that sometimes. But yeah, you have to have an ounce of faith in what you're selling.
You get that so often here. You pick up the phone, you get someone that pitches you in 30 seconds. You're like, no, okay, bye.
But it's not their fault a lot of the time.
No.
Like it's. I think we have to shift blame away from like bad sales to bad business.
Yeah.
Like these people haven't been trained, they haven't been coached, they haven't been brought in, onboarded in the right way, and they've basically been given a target, put into a seat and gone, off you go. Like, they're never going to succeed. Like 1 in 10 might succeed.
1 in 1,000.
But like without that, it's just so hard. And you look at Katrina that got onboarded in the right way, now has a passion. Like, did you have a passion for this before you joined?
I would say in the immediate months before, because I had a really bad experience, navigating the system here when it comes to healthcare. Yeah. So I came in with this, wow, this is something that I could have really benefited from 4 months ago, 5 months ago. So I think yes, but I also came from a place where this sort of healthcare system was completely foreign to me. So, and again, a very commercialized country and industry as well, which again was completely foreign to me. So when I read best blank in Dubai, I'm like, wow, congrats to them. And then you find out it's maybe not the case. Oftentimes it's not, right? So yeah, that's what I found.
And then off the back is your success, you started to lead people, or you had people sort of underneath you at work. How was that transition from super high achieving individual contributor to supporting people, coaching people, training people?
Yeah, it's a different beast for sure. It's definitely not made for everyone. I think when you come to sales, and actually Doctify's done this in their career progression plans, you can continue into larger accounts, new markets, and you can continue contributing in that regard. And then there's people that want to take the leadership role. I've worked with very, very, very small groups, and not even directly. It was, enterprise accounts were my sort of realm. So I had, an SDR booking my meetings, plus, the product team, development team, and then our account manager. So it's working sort of in synchronicity altogether, which is difficult because, my main focus was my job. But you also have to pick up the pieces and make sure that flow into, an active client goes as smoothly as possible. So it's very challenging. You're also dealing with different personalities, which is always, a day-to-day struggle for any manager. And, just making sure that we're following through on things. That's the most challenging part, especially because, you have to have one eye here and one eye over there. So it's very, very difficult, and I admire anyone who's managing teams, regardless of the size.
So hypothetically, you're leading or managing someone. You're on this podcast because you're incredibly resilient. The person you're leading or managing, you don't see that resilience in them. Can you train it? If so, how?
It's a long process, I think, because I think you have to have that seed in you, right? It's if you don't see it, it's either not there at all. There are some people, realistically, they don't have strong work ethic. They give up very easily. Maybe for them, it's like, okay, on to the next one. Something will stick at some point. But if there's a seed where you can see in them that they want to succeed, it's just maybe life's beating them down. Sometimes it's something from outside of work, right? That's affecting their performance. It's getting to the bottom of that and kind of rebuilding it block by block. And it's not going to be an overnight thing. Probably won't even happen within a few weeks. That was my situation as well. Did not perform my first 2.5 months, but I had Henry Chandler who was legend.
We love you.
He really, I remember it was, I think, my second month, and I threw every Hail Mary for every contract the last day. And he could see in my face I was completely defeated. And he sent me a beautiful message saying, this is sales, this is a startup, this is UAE, this is healthcare. You're going to hear a lot more no's than yeses. But that one yes cancels out 100 no's. Yeah. So he's like, keep your head up. It's going to happen. So I think it takes a lot of skill as well to understand and recognize when people have that in them. It's just, you got to fit the pieces of the puzzle together. There's
a lot of belief there, isn't there? Like the belief factors of you believing in yourself, Henry believing in you. With that kind of 2.5 months, it's believing in the product, the mission, the values, and it all comes together. Kind of without having that belief in all of those core areas, probably not going to be resilient regardless of the job.
Exactly.
So can resilience then be taught as long as you have those beliefs, or again, does it have to be from within, from day one?
Does there have to be that seed there that you spoke about?
I believe so. I don't know if it can be taught, but it can definitely be coached. Right? So there's some people that are naturally athletic, and you can maybe mold them into a great basketball player, a great footballer. But are also people that, 2 left feet. It's just not going to happen, or they're 5'5". Your chances of you going to the NBA are almost none. So there are many moving factors behind that, I believe.
Cool. Right, we'll leave that for part 2, and then we'll get into part 3. So we're going to try and speed the pace up a little bit. A little quick fire round. So all sales related questions. Give us your answers.
Okay.
Just your sales expertise is needed right now. Cool. I'll kick off. Cold calling or hyper personalized emails?
Cold calling.
Why?
People want to hear a voice on the other end. I think even if a cold call is a cold call, it's still more personalized because now there are AI tools. There are, SurveyMonkey and things like this that can just be sent out. You plug in the person's name and all of this stuff. So I think people are still a bit reluctant to these personalized emails. So cold call is much better, in my opinion.
Community building or networking?
Networking. I've been to, obviously, a bunch of networking events, and one phrase that stuck out to me is, it doesn't make sense that we all work in silos. So I think that, especially when you're in a one large industry that has many moving arms, moving parts, that's where you can kind of benefit and bounce ideas off and have collaborations and, approach maybe difficult prospects as well. So for me, networking all the way.
Cool. Long sales cycle or short sales cycle?
I love a long sales cycle.
Why?
No one will say that. Again, I like building this I hate using this word, but this rapport. I like having a relationship with the people I'm working for and working with. So short sales cycle, yeah, it's great. Numbers come in quick, but things can also fall apart. From my experience, things can fall apart just as quickly as they came together.
Enterprise deals or SME deals?
Enterprise. Much more interesting, much more bespoke, unique. Yeah, that's what I find.
Finally for me, are you working the weekends or are you fully switching off?
Saturdays, Sundays are off. I'll work late during the week. Saturdays and Sundays are off.
Office or remote? Don't sit on the fence, no hybrid.
Ooh. There's a lot of factors here. Where's the office? Do we have a nice cafe, outdoor space? Being in a stark, cold, white wall, almost like a clinical office, I don't think is conducive to productivity or happiness. I've seen beautiful offices, and that's where I would like to work. So I'll say office, but with certain context.
How do you switch off? Saturday, Sunday, you're off. How do you do that?
Getting out of the house. I try to stay active now. The one thing with salespeople is you're mentally drained by the end of your day. So getting any activity in is always a struggle. So I'm getting back into that now. That really helps me really shut my brain off or divert its attention. And And yeah, spending time enjoying. That's it. Just distraction, constant distraction.
Day one of a new quarter. How do you reset? How do you go again?
Touch base with people from last quarter. There's a habit that people have. They want to rush through, last 3 days of the quarter, got to get everything in. And then those people that you spoke to the last 3 days of the month, they're like, they're trying to they're throwing Hail Marys, as I said earlier. So I think following up on them from the first day where it's not, they don't feel like you were just talking to them as out of desperation. So definitely reaching back out to the people from the last week of the last quarter as well. Really important.
What's the one or the best bit of sales advice you've ever received?
Yes has a number.
Tell me more.
You're going to hear way more no's. But, you keep knocking. Eventually, and again, many different factors, you will eventually get a yes. It may be, I'm reaping, the fruits of my labor after 3.5 years with some of these deals. And that feels so good. And it, honestly, I don't even remember the frustration that I felt the last 3.5 years, because now it's all coming back and it's just it's sweet, sweet joy.
That's one of the most dangerous things about sales, is it? You instantly forget the bad times, just remember the good times as soon as the good times are good.
Yes. Which I think that comes back to people's personality and that seed in them, where, you don't hold on to negative feedback or anything like that. It's just, I'm working for the positives, the yeses.
One final tip you'd like to leave?
Ooh, this is tough. I should have prepared for this.
You're too cool for 15-minute conversations, so don't worry.
I would say just find something you believe in. It makes everything else easy. Find something you believe in, even if other people think it's silly.
Amazing. So we're going to start a tradition.
Okay.
And as you're the first, it's all on you. So we're going to create a playbook. So every week we're going to get a guest to tackle a challenge that's been set or given by the previous guest. So once we get out of the studio, if you can give us that challenge. So something that's going on in your day-to-day at the moment, or it could be something that the team are facing. And then what we'll do is we'll get our next guest to answer that challenge. So
I've already got something in mind. Yeah,
cool.
Perfect.
Looking forward to seeing it and getting it answered. But Katrina, amazing.
Thank you guys again.
You've been very great for us as our debut in the podcast scene. We couldn't have had a better guest. And I love your journey. Like, whenever I'm talking to people about resilience, those conversations 4 or 5 years ago will always stick out. And I think the way that you've developed your career out here is phenomenal. So
I appreciate that.
You're a pretty inspiring person.
All thanks to you guys.
No.
Yes.
All down to you.
Yes.
We're a percentage of it. But no, thanks a lot.
Thank
Hope
you
you've
guys.
enjoyed it, and keep listening. And we've got some amazing guests planned. And welcome to the Salespeople.
Take care.